resources to your neighborhood, your friends and family from fire rescue, law enforcement, first responders can often be challenging and it can be cumbersome. Yes, sir.
Can we explain what triage is?
Yeah, so I got there. That's what I was going to say. So when we get to the point of getting the resources where they have to go, it's important to be able to sort out who gets what and who gets care first. So triage means to sort. So if we're sorting people out and we're sorting out priorities and needs, it's important, and there's a lot of factors that go in there. So I'll go back to the hurricanes last year, something that we learned in triaging for mass incidences. We had a wide variety of problems. We had, and this was here. We had people that ran out of oxygen. We had people that needed MREs. We had people that couldn't get out of their houses, that people couldn't get to roadways. So when we're sorting out the needs, it's going to be based upon what is wrong with the people and what their situations currently are. So, for example, if people have mobility issues and need oxygen, then we would get to them first and get them what they need to be to make them self-sufficient as possible. But when we talk about an MCI for a traumatic event, a train derailment, a plane crash, a motor vehicle accident, and go back to what you said earlier about the definition of triage, we view it as, in fire rescue, a multiple casualty incident, an MCI, is anything that is over and above what the first responding units can handle. So if my engine and my ambulance get to a car accident and there's 6 patients there, that's now an MCI. We have multiple people involved in this incident. They may not be all bad, but now we have to sort out or triage who gets the priority. And unfortunately, yesterday I was telling him that earlier. Yesterday before noontime, we had 8 car accidents that our crews were responding to, and the third one in, we had 8 patients, and 3 of them were pediatric patients. So now you're sorting patients and taking parents away from kids, where the parent is more critical than the child. So let's talk about the colors in triage. The colors in triage are not very complicated. Red, yellow, green, and black. And the reason those are important is that tells first responders and people that are managing the incident what the priority is for those patients. So let me take a step back. Triage, people, as far as fire and EMS, that's not the most exciting job to have. I would say that the most exciting job to have is delivering the pre-hospital care and taking care of the patient. But we train our individuals when they get on the scene first. Their job is strictly not to take care of people, but to triage them. Because could you imagine, and I'll use the train derailment in 2002 that I responded to on Jock Road in Crescent City. 518 patients. Could you imagine trying to stop and take care of each person along the way while you're waiting for resources? So this is an incident that requires you to sort out the most critical patients first to make sure they get the care needed versus the walking wounded, so to speak. The walking wounded is something that's kind of easy to sort out. I remember getting off the fire engine and people being everywhere, and I'm yelling, if you can hear my voice, come to the highway. Come to the highway. At least people that were moving, I knew were ambulatory, they were breathing, just by them doing that. The people that were still on the ground, now we got to determine, are they yellow patients? Are they red patients? Or are they black patients? All right? Now, unfortunately, in an MCI, because, and I know she'll touch about this in first aid, but it's basically sticks and rags first aid. It's not the issue of starting an IV, giving medications, putting them on the monitor. It is actually making sure they're breathing, controlling the bleeding. That's the 2 things that we're looking at. So if I've got, and this is where it gets tricky, because if a child is not breathing, the multiple casualty or the mass casualty incident response protocol says to open their airway, and if they begin breathing on their own, they're now a red patient. If they don't begin breathing, they're a black patient. And what's even more harder as a human being, if I open little Joey's mouth or his airway and he starts breathing, I now tag him as red and move on. I move on now where the next people coming in, the treatment group, will take care of little Johnny, because now they can render aid to them. But I want to try to bring it closer to home for a second, because I think that when we talk about triage, we look at, on my end of it, we look at it as an incident where I've got multiple EMTs, firefighters, paramedics, and law enforcement. But what I want you to think about in your church and in your neighborhood and in your community is, how are you going to help at a multiple casualty incident by triaging people and sorting them? You can very well be a resource when we have, here's an example. The firestorm is coming, we have a large wildfire in your neighborhood, and we're evacuating houses. And you know that Mrs. Jones on the block over, she is wheelchair bound, she's on oxygen, all these things. She needs to be moved before the lady over here who's got 2 kids, but she's 25 years old, and she's got a husband and a strong resourcing network. So in the evacuation process, we would need to offer assistance and resources to the lady that's a block over that has those challenges. So we often think about triage as just being for an incident where it is strictly because, oh, this looks really bad. But if we focus this on our neighborhood, our community, and our church, you guys are the resources because you know your community where I don't. I work in your area, I respond in a fire engine, but I don't know your neighbors or your neighborhood. My responsibility is to know all the roads, know the water sources, and how to get in and out of there in the event there's a fire. But now I don't know the inner workings of the people in your neighborhood. So in triage, we're trying to sort people based on the most severe to the less severe. Now, I will tell you this. I saw this in an article probably about 3 or 4 months ago. I can't remember what state it was in, but it was, unfortunately, it was a concert where they had a mass shooter. And there were several patients at this incident. And the triage team was going in and they were triaging people. And triage is a tag, and it goes on them. And it allows me to tear the yellow, it turns to red, turns to green, turn to black. I can tear it off. So people at this concert, at this event, were figuring out that if I tag somebody green, if they figured out they could tear that green off and have a red tag, now they got quicker help, they got quicker service. I would encourage the community to remember that our personnel are trained in knowing who's red, who's yellow, who's black, who's green. And unfortunately, people that are selfish or feel like their emergency is more important than somebody else is different. So in triage, we use letters RPM. Respiratory, perfusion, meaning circulating blood, and mental status. The mental status is very simple. Can they follow commands? Hey, come walk. They can walk. Okay? Respiratory, we're looking for a number. Respiratory, we're looking for a number. If they're breathing more than 30 times a minute, they're going to be a red patient. All right? If not, they're going to be a yellow patient. And then the P for perfusion is your bleeding. All right? So if they have major bleeding, they become a red patient. Okay? Otherwise, most people can be a yellow or a green. Unfortunately, the deceased people who have no respiratory drive, no ability to follow commands, and no perfusion, no circulation, obviously going to be your black patients for deceased. So our personnel go through this. As a matter of fact, every 3 or 4 months, I take my crew and I sit them down in the room like this, and I will put pictures on a board, and we will show different types of patients, and we'll have the numbers there. And we want them in less than 15 seconds to be able to color code that patient if they're a red, yellow, black, or green, and then move on. Unfortunately, it's a very difficult job. Today, let's say these kids are coming to play a football game and they're coming from out of town and the bus turns over on Highway 20. And you've got 12-year-old kids on this bus coming to play popcorn football. Somebody from fire rescue has to be able to say, hey, listen, this kid can't get my help because this kid needs my help. So we have to write this kid off. So we have an emotional side too, but we have to get past our emotions to be able to quickly make these decisions. Otherwise, kids, adults, the citizens don't get that timely sorting or that timely triage which could put them in jeopardy. Now, obviously, in the perfect world, if I come to your house and you've cut your arm and you're bleeding, I'm going to dress it up, I'm going to take your blood pressure and your pulse, start an IV on you, things like that. But now this kid has an impaled glass through his arm, he's bleeding. I'm going to grab something, I'm going to tie a tourniquet up, tie it off tight, move on to somebody else. All right? So it's not the most prettiest picture in the triaging arena for a multiple casualty incident. But remember, in a multiple casualty incident, I've got a lot of patients and a lot of people who need help in a systematic way. So if I prioritize the wrong people over certain individuals, it could mean life or death for them. So people that need to be sorted at an incident could be anywhere from 5 patients to 500 patients. You know, I hate to say this, but there was a kid, it was in Palatka the day before yesterday, that brought a knife to school. He was 10 years old. He was threatening to cut kids in his class. This is in Palatka. Yeah. So now, you know, we think that, oh, it won't happen here because we're just on, you know, poor rural Putnam County. You know, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. I'm not judging the kid, but obviously this kid has some ill intention. So what if he just stabbed 5 or 6 kids in the classroom? How do I distinguish which kid has the worst stab wound to get treated first? How many ambulances am I going to get there? Now, here's what you got to factor in too. You got to factor in how many ambulances can I get? Because what if I can't get enough? Because all the other ambulances are tied up on some 911 calls for regular emergencies, whether it's chest pain, abdominal pain, and stroke, and seizure. Can I get those resources? Sometimes, yesterday, twice, on 2 out of the 8 car accidents, I was stacking 3 or 4 people in an ambulance because we didn't have enough ambulances. So what do? Do you wait on another company to come from Volusia County, Flagler County, to bring ambulances over? Like I remember, you know, we got a little bit lucky with the train derailment. Shan's Care happened to be flying back from dropping a patient off in Gainesville. They're flying back to DeLand, and they drove over the train wreck. And they called us, hey, who wants to land? Well, heck yeah, land. They were able to land out there and help us in the triage efforts. I mean, again, this is people that, you know, at a multiple casualty incident, people aren't thinking clearly anyways. So now with the pandemonium and the panic and everything else, they're not listening to you when you're trying to give them instructions. You're going to have people that want to often do their own thing. Then you're going to have the people that want to come back in and help other people. Now, I'm not against that, but there is a system. So you could be the resource in your neighborhood, in your community, in your church, because you know those people. But now you're in the way of my personnel who are trying to sort out people and get them cleared. So I think that's something important that we need to look at. Hey, I'm not going to do this presentation. Give me a few minutes to call you back. Okay? Hello? Hey, I just have to do this presentation. Let me call you back, but don't come in like a storm. I don't believe so. I think they're either going to move the game or cancel the game. I'm going to call them back. Let me know. All right, that's why I'll text you. I got to get it back. So, when we're talking about doing a mass incident, it's important to think about people's needs. Now, here's the other thing that we get emotional about in triaging. Your medical history doesn't mean anything in triage. Your medical history doesn't mean anything in triage. Well, I'm a diabetic, I should get before somebody over here. That doesn't matter to us. Because remember, I'm treating life-threatening problems that are right in front of our face to get them to where they need to go. At a multiple casualty incident, we're doing triage. We have 3 divisions. We have a triage team. They go in and they sort the patients. I have a treatment team. They go in and they treat the patients. And then I have a transport team. And they come in and they transport the patients. If I haven't triaged them correctly, the transport people can't do their job to get the people off the scene that need to get to a higher level of care first as a priority. And that's very important. So again, it's a matter of a systematic way of approaching the situation that we find right off the bat. Not because that, well, she's a diabetic and she ain't had insulin yet. Okay, I understand that, but I got to move on to somebody else. Like, you're green, you can walk, I'll put you in the treatment area, and we can deal with that later on. But the idea is to take a large group of people that have been injured or suffering medical issues and get them sorted out based on their severity of their injury. The illness doesn't have anything to do with that. The other factor is that, again, in an incident where pure panic is taking place, people are going to have anxiety attacks, people are going to panic, people are going to have elevated respiratory breathing and things like that. So again, that factors into our response. That factors into RPM, respiratory, perfusion, and mental status. Can they follow commands? Can they do these things? The easiest way is if people are walking, they can walk to an area and be treated and sorted out further. All right? You can get somebody that's green initially, and they're sitting there waiting to be treated, and all of a sudden, maybe their blood pressure's dropping, and they're crashing, and now they've changed their color to red. But we don't know that initially. I can't go with 500 people and check everybody's blood pressure. It's how you look. It's your presentation. And I'm going to move them. You know, it's funny because when I teach at the college, I have kids that are young EMTs and young paramedics. And I teach them, it's an old thing I learned, 30 years ago. We teach people to load and go or stay and play. If I walk in your house because you call 911 and you look like crap, we're going to go, and we're going to go right now. So you call 911 because you're short of breath. I come lights and sirens, I come in the door, I walk in, you're on oxygen, you're struggling to breathe, you're tripoding, you're not moving air everywhere, all your belly's breathing hard and fast. You look bad. We gotta go. We gotta go right now. I need to intervene and take care of you. Versus you call 911, I walk in the door, you're smoking a cigarette, watching The Price is Right. I can't catch my breath, I just don't feel good. Whoa. Now I got time to get your blood pressure, get your pulse rate, start an IV on you. I can move that direction. But at a multiple casualty incident, when I'm triaging people and trying to sort them out, it's based on what we see at that time. When they get to the treatment area, we can do further assessments and call for further resources. It's very important. What I'd like to see out of this presentation this morning is that how do you take the idea of triaging in your neighborhood? Whether it's people that are injured and now you have to sort them out based on this guy looks bad, this guy doesn't look bad, this guy can walk, this person can't walk. Those are things that are very important. Could you imagine a family of, let's take it even smaller. How many people live in the house next door to you? Let's say a family of 5 or 6 live in the house next to you. And during a hurricane or a tornado, a tree falls through their house. And now we got 5 people in this house that are injured. Who has the worst injuries in this house? Is it the child that is underneath the bulk of the tree that's not breathing and unresponsive? Or is it the woman who's screaming because she's freaking out because she's trapped in her house? So these are things that we have to figure out when we're triaging people. We try to sort them out based on the severity of their injury. And in the world of disaster preparedness, we have to look at MCI being anything from a wildfire incident to a weather-related incident to an incident where there's catastrophic damage. A tornado that touches down in Interlaken that destroys a daycare that has 35 kids in it, that's a big thing. So now we got to figure out, and of course every mom wants their kid to get treated first, right? Because that's what moms do. But they have to realize, and we as human beings have to realize for a moment, hey, this kid's in worse shape than this kid. It's like the lifeguard that swims out to 2 kids who are in distress between the grab. I would have never in that situation. But in my career, I've been to 2 train derailments in this county. One was in Palatka downtown at the train station almost. The train almost made it there. There was 316 patients on that one. And then the one in Crescent City had 518. And that was a mess. That was an absolute mess. So I feel like the thing that we need to do as communities and as neighborhoods and as congregations is to talk to each other about this kind of stuff. Because again, I hate saying this, but the truth is we live in a shitty world where people are so selfish and so just, people are not kind anymore. Everybody is out for themselves. And in the event that we're all, and listen, we see this, listen, let's go back for a second. During hurricanes, when we were out here, we were trying to give out food. We have Salvation Army, MREs, all these people coming bringing free food, bags of ice, everything. How many people were skipping